self-taught. And some things, no. I do have a PhD, but not in philosophy. Um, Anywho, yeah, okay. So before I don't want not to talk about the French. So let's make sure we do that before
Yes,
you have
let's do the
to really.
French.
So let's see. Let me switch my thing so people don't get confused because they're going to be like, "You're called the title is Democratic Game of Thrones, and now we're talking about the French." But people,
Ah,
you gotta, we gotta go. We're gonna go. So
La
go ahead and you
France.
can start that, and I'm just gonna change the thing at the beginning. And I know people, I made a typo. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Uh,
So,
this idea,
um,
that the left front, this popular front is a way to solve anything in France is just very silly because it's a very unstable coalition of parties that don't all agree. In my book, The Way Is Shut, I talk about Mélenchon a bit, and he had this terrible predicament he was in, which is that if he campaigns on withdrawing from the European Union, then he's
mhm,
considered crazy, and the other parties of the left won't work with him. The socialists and the
mhm,
Greens and so on, they won't work with him.
mhm,
But if he drops that commitment and agrees that he will stay in the European Union no matter what happens, then if he ever
mhm,
gets into power, he'll have no credibility with which to demand anything from the Germans and from the other core states.
mhm,
So right now he's in this big coalition, and he's in this coalition because he made the concession. He gave up the unilateral Plan B commitment that he used to
mhm,
have so that these people would accept him as leader of a coalition. And that's made him
mhm,
temporarily electorally more viable. But
mhm,
it means that if he gets into office at any point, he will either be toothless or he will have to try to reintroduce the teeth, at which point he will lose the coalition parties that only joined up
mhm.
with him on the premise that he was putting the teeth away.
Okay.
So that's the long-term problem with that whole left formation in France. It's actually a
Mhm,
bunch of people who don't agree at all about the future of the country and are
mhm,
just pretending to agree for the purposes of opposing austerity. They have a
mhm,
resistance politics that would collapse if they ever
mhm,
actually got into power.
mhm,
Macron, I think yeah, he's really somebody who has been frustrated because he wants to be the Reagan of France. He wants to transform the French economy. But ever
mhm,
since he lost the legislature, he's had a very difficult time getting things
mhm,
done. So he thought, okay, let
mhm,
me have an election. If I win the election, great. If I lose the election to the right, then I can portray myself as the bulwark against fascism. And that will
mhm,
give me leverage when I negotiate with the left.
mhm,
And initially, most of his campaigning was against the left. What I saw over the course of it, insofar as I
mhm,
saw it, uh, is that he was mainly running against the left to try to reduce the left seat count because he
mhm,
wanted the right to establish a stronger position so he could position himself as the only one who can credibly protect France from the right. As it happens, the right did not do well enough to fulfill that image either, and
mhm,
he just ended up with the left coalition still in a very strong position.
mhm,
Just like before, he didn't really manage to give himself more
mhm,
options or more flexibility or even really an opportunity
mhm,
to rebrand the situation in a way that might be more
mhm,
favorable to him. So I don't think it ultimately worked out for him. And I thought maybe it would. I thought maybe the right would gain seats and he would be
mhm,
able to, even though the center would lose seats, portray
mhm,
himself as the one who protects from the right. But that
mhm,
didn't happen. Instead, the left coalition grew, which is fine and dandy for the left coalition. But I
mhm,
don't think that left coalition can govern France. So I don't
mhm,
see that as ultimately. And this comes back to, and you were right. When you asked in our DMs, you said, when I say that everybody who has something negative to say is right and everyone who has something positive to say is wrong, am I
mhm,
talking just about the United States or am I also talking about the UK and France? And I
mhm,
said, well, in the initial conversation when I made that point, I was just talking about the United States.
mhm.
But listening to what I've had to say about the UK and France, I think that probably it does apply to both of them as well.
Well, that'll be another plug for the for the episode. I did find three or four things just to get people's attention, and I did manage to timestamp them so they can. I can't do everything for them, although I appreciate every single view because we are trying to grow this. Okay, so what about? And wasn't there a thing that there was literally a story? I remember that Marie Le Pen wept. So I'm guessing that maybe after the wave after the success at the EU level elections, maybe they were really believing that this was going to also lead them to, and then Macron called elections.
Yeah.
And and he actually, yeah, so he kind of he both lost and won, I guess Macron did. And
Well, one of the
unlike,
factors in that race
yeah,
was that the election
so
was
maybe,
called very, very quickly. So it became a basic test of
mm-hmm.
party machinery. Who's well organized enough to stage a competitive campaign
Mm-hmm.
within less than a month? Who's best prepared?
Mm-hmm.
And we found that some of the parties in France were just not on a purely mechanical level ready to do that in that kind of time frame. That there
Mm-hmm.
was a blitz aspect to this, which
Mm-hmm.
disadvantaged, for instance, the Republicans, the center-right party, which had a split that completely incapacitated their campaign at a very early stage. That's
Mm-hmm.
something that could have been worked through if they had a longer period of time to prepare for the election. But Macron was trying to ambush these people. He wanted a very, very rapid fire campaign so that some of the parties would be caught out flat-footed, not ready to go. And that happened. And so even, it's difficult to draw conclusions from this election about what France wants or where it's going, because the election was held in such a short window of time that it was very much a test of just party organization, who is the best organized apparatus. And Mélenchon was pretty good at the apparatus side of it in that election. The left immediately was a united front, but the only reason that it was is that he had given up on the Plan B stuff. So he gave up on the stick to get that. So he has an electoral advantage, but it comes at the cost of now he's in bed with people he can't rely on if he ever gets into government.
Yeah, so it's so I guess it's a very paper thin or superficial coalition.
Yeah, that's pop frontism. That's why the Popular Front failed the first time.
Yeah. So if you're enough to get in, but then you can't do anything you want because people can hold that over you, that they'll leave your coalition.
Yeah, and
there's also a lot of that going on in India,
and coalition-based systems. Defenders of the coalition-based system will go, well, you shouldn't be able to reform the country unless more than half the population want to do it. I have news for them. In any real crisis, more than half the population won't want to do anything.
No.
In a real crisis, you will never get more than half the population understanding the crisis in one way. You need somebody who can impose a minoritarian solution in a crisis. Ideally, that solution is reasonably popular with the public, but
or they can get them on board.
A plurality maybe, but you're not going to get more than half the population voting for major radical change in a crisis. You will just get immobilism. And these people then assume, oh, well, an immobilism will prevail in the streets. No, you won't. In many cases, you won't. We've seen historically that in many, many cases, the left loses in the streets, and it loses at the barricades, and it loses when the tank columns are unleashed. This is not at all a fait accompli for you, getting to a point where there's a crisis of the bourgeois state. It is not an automatic win on any level. You have to actually be organized and prepared for such a situation. And many people are clownish and irresponsible and cavalier in their attitude to this kind of stuff.
All right, so listen to the words of wisdom he's trying to impart on you before you go about on your, anarchic adventures. Be careful what you wish for. You might get it, and then yeah. All right. Well, we have been going for almost 2 hours. Thank you very much. I'm glad that you were able to that you responded to my DM of like, we have to do the Democratic Game of Thrones.
Well, I had to run last time, and I felt bad about it, so I wanted to come back and finish the job, especially with the news that happened. I thought, let's come back and finish the job.
Yeah, no, I was happy, and I thought, well, if he says yeah, if not, then whatever. Because again, I thought, some things if so much time passes, it's not as fun anymore. I wouldn't have had a good time. I wouldn't have enjoyed my graphics.
It wouldn't have mattered as much. Later on, people would have heard more takes about it, and maybe this will stick out to them because they heard it sooner. But guess what? I finished, and you know who didn't? The guy who says, "Guess what?"
And on that note, so we've already wrapped up the Game of Thrones. Seems like maybe the big submission was that they got Biden out.
It's Jover.
Yeah,
just like
it's
this
It's
podcast.
Jover. Yeah, it's Jover. And Benjamin's prediction is that unless Kamala Harris really face plants and does something really, or something really crazy comes out about her, crazy, who knows, that isn't already out already, that she will be the nominee, and the Democratic Party will probably stay fairly unified. Barack Obama eventually, maybe while we've been doing this, he's issued a hearty endorsement of her. She'll be the candidate. She won't win unless, again, something really which can happen. Black swan events, who knows? That is Benjamin's prediction. So it may not be the most exciting ending. So we might get the Bran ending. We might get a Bran type ending for Game of Thrones. We're not going to get the exciting thing with the. And it's been 4 years now, right? So no one's going to get mad at me at spoiling. We're not going to. It's like maybe nobody gets happy except for Kamala and the identity politic type people. We'll get basically a cackling Bran, and we'll have to be happy with it.
Maybe the J.B. Pritzker ending, the billionaire who.
Oh, Pritzker?
The billionaire who probably wouldn't win a competitive primary, but might want to take his shot in a weird situation, who has enough money to make himself competitive. Who knows? If it goes crazy, maybe J.B. Pritzker.
Oh my God! Please no. That I know too much
the
about
governor
that
of Illinois.
Yeah. Well, whatever you do, don't look up his sister who used to be his brother. Anyway, speaking of medical industrial complexes. So this was the end of it. This was the end of it here. We have I don't know this isn't my meme. I saw this. So I think George Soros has the knife. Kamala's back there. She's happy. So Kamala has I don't know if Kamala, maybe that's an arm. It's in the back. I don't know. But George Soros with the knife.
Or is it ice cream? Is Kamala having
Could be ice cream? Yeah. But we definitely have Obama, and so I guess is that Soros represents the donors. Obama represents the kingmaker, maybe, or whatever, king and queen maker, and or a DNC, or at least one side of it.
Well, Obama's got to be Brutus, right? So it would be that the donors are Cassius. They're the ones who've been agitating for this for a while. Obama is the traitor, so he would be Brutus.
Okay. And then we have Gavin and Hillary looking happy about what's going on in the background. So even though I am nothing really positive at all to say about Joe Biden as a public figure, political figure, I can see why, especially if he's in a degree of senility, that he's quite angry right now. So better hope that nobody. I bet there's like a full-time brigade of people not wanting him to do a Trump and having his phone and just.
Whatever house he's in, every camera in that house has to be destroyed. Every recording device, they have to destroy all of it. Who knows what he might get up to if left to his own devices.
We think we want to know, but we do want to know, and I don't know. Anyway, Benjamin has a book coming out. Do you want to tell the people about that before we sign off?
Yeah, in November, I'm going to have a book out called Legitimacy in Liberal Democracies with Edinburgh University Press. So I'm looking forward to that, and I do hope that people will take an interest in it when it comes out.
Cool. Yes, please do. So thanks again. I'll work hard on making this a regular thing. Maybe once a month, I'll try to press Dr. Studebaker to come on and give his takes and predictions on the political on the politics or not so politics. I never have asked you if you like the distinction between politics and the political. If you find that useful or not, maybe I will the next time.
I don't fuss too much about words. It's more about what we're trying to talk about.
Yeah. No, but when you said earlier, maybe it was 2 days ago, that even though you don't see anything positive coming out of this for the population, and certainly not much for like in terms of developing socialism, but you still need to do your political commentary. I was just wondering how you distinguish that. But
yeah, politics occurs when legitimation is happening. Yeah, and legitimation has stakes. It can succeed or fail, and to varying degrees. Right. And my book is all about legitimacy. So it is all about politics as I see it. Right.
There you go.
When you don't have legitimation, you don't have politics.
So we'll end on that. If you don't have legitimation, you don't have politics. That's a Studebakerism. Do you want to be Studebakerian? That's a Studebakerian. That's a Studebakerism. Because you
It's
have
not
too
for
many
me to
syllables.
decide.
You have too many syllables in your name, yo. That's the
Yeah, it's
thing.
not for me to decide that stuff. That's for the people to decide.
Oh, look at you. You should be a politician. Okay. That's for the people to decide. I'm just. Hey, well, thank you very much, Benjamin. People, check out benjaminstudebaker.com. I'll pull up and the end credits. I'll put up the slide there that has his website on. Go check it out. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed this as always, and I will see you next time. Take care.